May I start? Members, we have a quorum and we're going to get the technology fired up, ready to go. We don't need a motion to recommence an adjourned meeting. Please just move this screen. Is that connected? It's just warming up. Thank you. I think we're all systems go now. Thank you, members. Can I thank you for your indulgence in moving from chamber to chamber? We'll move through the agenda now, recognising that there are some items that will be perhaps taken separately in some of the bulk recommendations. We have no deputations in main council this evening and no petitions. If I could move now to item 9.1, which is a recommendation of the City Community Services and Culture Committee. This committee was chaired by myself in the absence of Councillor Giles and Councillor Davis, and the recommendations are as printed. Could I ask someone to move them? Councillor Elliott moved.
I just have a question on the
Can I have a seconder first? Councillor Snape,
second.
A question is being asked.
Thank you. I'd just like to know that once we've endorsed the submissions in the National Housing and Homelessness Issues paper, what will be the next steps following on from that?
The question's been asked through you. Can I ask Kaliotis, is it? Could you respond to that question, please? Do you need it repeated? I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Don't apologise, more chance for me to speak. I'd just like to know what the outcomes will be after this policy has been accepted and what are the next steps.
The CEO will answer the question.
Thank you through the Chair. The draft submission will be provided by the due date of the 29th of September to the Australian Government, and we will continue to monitor and track that feedback, and when we hear back, we will provide that back to the elected body.
So thank you. This is a contrary view. I don't know if the mover or seconder would speak. Councillor Stewart.
Only just to say, it's a very well written paper, but only just to say that I would have liked to have seen in the submission a more defining of groups in regards to the vulnerability that there is faced on the streets. I think there is depicted only two groups from the report, from the Zero Project report, and I did mention one of the issues being mental health, but also I would have liked to have seen a lot more of a focus on the actual issues that are faced, like domestic violence. I'm just wondering I know there was a discussion about adding mental health in, if we can expand on that a bit more through the discretion of the CEO. By the report that was given by the Zero Project as well, by the groups that they've identified.
I'm not sure how much time we have before the deadline, but I know that homelessness is a contested definition, and there are multiple definitions across the country that make it really hard for us to have one definition of homelessness, but I think it does mention wraparound services and the need to have wraparound services for domestic violence, mental health and all those things. It is buried in there.
And also the youth, because the youth seems to be like a really high sector of our homelessness at the moment.
So can I just ask a question about the deadline, how much leeway we have for editing?
Thank you. Through you, Lord Mayor. Yes, we do have leeway for editing, and I think recommendation 2 authorises the Lord Mayor and the Chief Executive Officer to make minor amendments to that, which will incorporate it.
So if you're happy with that, we'll make those minor amendments, and if the mover and seconder are happy, shall we move as printed with minor amendments as authorised? All those in favour? All those against? That's carried.
I'd like to seek leave the meeting now to move to item 13.2. I'd like to seek leave of the meeting to move to item 13.2.
There is a requirement for urgency. Can I just deal with 4.1 and break it up and leave you 4.14? 4.14, part of the recommendation, or part 14, is the item that you're speaking of. I'm sorry? We have finished 9.1. I'm just going to... Can I move down in an orderly manner through 9.2?
No.
Why not?
No, I'd like to move to the motion on notice from Councillor Carmel-Noon. Thank you.
I resolve against that, but I will take the movement, but I will just manage the meeting.
No, it's a motion. So I'm seeking leave of the motion. So it's not. I'm not asking for your judgment. I'm asking for a leave of the meeting with a show of hands to move to item 13.2. And
I have said I will cooperate with that, but I just want to make some points about the next item because this is a matter for part 14. And I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to agree that there is a level of urgency, but I just need to organise the next meeting, part of the meeting agenda.
You've lost me.
I've said there is no urgency at this moment, but I'm managing the meeting through a complex series of items, and I will get to your movement without disadvantaging you.
Without moving to 9.2?
Without moving the whole of 9.2, because I understand the item you're interested in is the 14th clause. I'm just going to manage the meeting in my own way. Thank you, Councillor.
No, look, so there's I'd like to seek leave of the meeting, which is a vote. I'd like you to put it to the vote as the chair, that we move to that item now. I think that's more appropriate.
I'm saying that it's not a matter of urgency at this stage, and that's my ruling. Moving a motion on without notice requires a matter of urgency, and I'm saying the urgency is not there yet.
No, it's leave the meeting.
I'm saying that it's not necessary at this moment.
All right, well, I'd like to have a point of order and contest your ruling. So that means that it gets put to a vote. And so I say the guiding principles, it's not about urgency, it's a motion without notice to go to a different item. And I note in many previous times, you've allowed motions without notice to come to this chamber which weren't that urgent. So for the operation of this meeting, I'm asking leave of the meeting to go to 13.2. I believe that's a very valid motion without notice. You've said that you wouldn't accept that. I'd like to raise a point of order. I understand you're going to rule against me, and I'd like to put that to a vote now, question your ruling on the point of order, and overrule you, which is within the standing orders. I would.
My point here is that I have got 9.2, and it only becomes a matter of urgency when we get to the end to that agenda item. I understand exactly what you want to do. I'm happy to collaborate and cooperate in every way possible, but I just need to manage the next part of the meeting.
So we have meeting procedures.
I know.
And we need to follow
procedures.
the meeting procedures. And in the meeting procedures, and governments potentially can help, is that what I'm saying is that you've made a ruling about a motion without notice. I've raised the point of order. This is the procedure of what we're going through. I've raised a point of order that under the guiding principles of our meeting procedures, that your ruling is incorrect. I would now like to challenge your ruling, and this meeting has the ability to overrule your meeting. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I understand that you wish to run the meeting in the way you
No,
prefer,
I'd like to follow the standing orders.
I am telling you that I want to introduce the next item.
No, I understand you want to do that, but you see that there are meeting procedures within our standing orders that I can actually call on you to follow.
And the meeting procedure requires a movement of a motion into a different part of the agenda for a matter of urgency.
It's a point of order. So I'm raising a point of order in the standing orders, in the meeting procedures.
I don't think there's any point debating this any further.
No. Look, can I get some assistance from governance? Because the way that points of order work is you don't just get to choose.
Can you sit down, please? If we're getting advice, we get advice. We don't need you to give it.
Through the Lord Mayor, there's a debate that's not necessary here. Item 9.2 has 14 sub-items. The Lord Mayor has ruled that she'll entertain bringing forward 13.2 at the point of the agenda where 14 4.14 becomes an item. I don't think there's any...
Okay. Look, it looks like the meeting procedures aren't going to be followed. I'll raise this another time, but I'm very disappointed that this process isn't being followed.
Thank you. I'm calling on item 9.2 now, and there are several complicated elements of this motion. Firstly, 4.6 has a conflict of interest, which has been declared by the Deputy Lord Mayor. And secondly, I have a conflict in relation to 4.11. So those items will have to be pulled out. Could I just get a view? Is anyone prepared to move part 1 to 5, 7 to 10, and 12 to 13?
Lord Mayor, can I ask all of it to be taken in parts and
Absolutely.
not en bloc?
Absolutely. If you would prefer in parts, that way we can work through it in an orderly manner. So, recommendation 1, would someone move that? Councillor Siebentrit, seconded. Councillor Kouros. Unless there's any debate on that matter, all those in favour?
Sorry, Lord Mayor, can we have a repeat of the motion? Just there was a lot of clattering and clambering about on the other side of the chamber.
Recommendation 1, which is the quarterly business report. All those move in favour? Against? Thank you. Councillor Davis was out of his seat. Item 2, recommendation 2. Moved by Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, members. Item 3. Moved by Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Number 4, adoption of the long-term financial plan. Moved by Councillor Noon, seconded by Councillor Siebentrit. All those in favour? Can I just take that motion that again, because I didn't see the hands. All those in favour? Against? Did you? Councillor Davis did not vote, but all those in favour? Can we take that vote again? We're still voting on 4 because Councillor Davis hasn't raised his hand. All those in favour? 4? Thank you, Councillor. All those against? Division has been called for recommendation 4.
Members, the division has been called for recommendation 4, item 4.4. Please stand in favour of the motion until your name has been called. Councillor Noon, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Lee, Councillor Siebentrit, Councillor Snape and Deputy Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Item 5, which is the forward procurement report.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, could I ask a question in relation to recommendation 4? I know that we've moved on from it.
We've just voted on it. I'm not sure.
Okay. I was just curious as to why it went through unanimously. I thought the Finance and Governance Committee only a week ago, and now there's not unanimous support. Is that a question for after council?
I can't answer that. I think it's not possible
council.
to be
Thank
answered. Number 5, recommendation 5, the quarterly procurement report, moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Abrahimzadeh. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Davis, are you voting against that?
Yeah, sorry. My computer's broken.
So recommendation 5, all those in favour? Again, I'm sorry to call it again. Unanimously, thank you. Now, item 6 is a delegation of an award contract. The Deputy Lord Mayor has declared an interest based on his membership of a board at the...
A material conflict of interest because of my membership of the Adelaide Festival Trust, and I will be leaving the room, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. The Deputy Lord Mayor is leaving the room. Can I ask someone to move? Councillor Snape moved. Councillor Siebentrit second. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. We'll just wait for the Deputy Lord Mayor to return. Item 7, when the Deputy Lord Mayor returns, integrated strategic community engagement. Moved by Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Siebentritt. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. 8, market research. Moved by Councillor Nude, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favour? All those against? Are you against that, Councillor Davis, as well? Can we move again? All those in favour? Can we repeat? Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor. 4.9 is, or number 9 is Code of Practice. All those move, please. Deputy Lord Mayor moved, seconded by Councillor Abrahimzadeh. All those in favour? All those against? Councillor Kouros, did you vote? Was that against? That was against. The councillor member allowances, item 10. Moved by Councillor Abrahimzadeh, seconded by Councillor Siebentritt. All those in favour? All those against? You've got the 2 against? The next item I declare a material conflict for number 11, and I'm going to vacate my chair.
Recommendation 11, Council Member Allowance and Benefits Policy specific to the Lord Mayor. May I have a mover? Councillor Snape, seconder. Councillor Siebentritt. Anyone wish to speak? I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Unanimous. Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Snape. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried again unanimously. Now this is the item number 14 where there is a matter of urgency and you would like to move. So you're moving 13.2 on the agenda because there's a matter of urgency. I'm sorry? Ah. So now we'll seek leave of the meeting to move this item forward. There's no seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Noon. And would you like to speak to it? All those in favour? That's carried. Councillor Noon.
Thank you. In the report that was tabled at the Finance and Governance Committee on the 15th of August, there was 3 options. 1, continue the current prayer. 2, delete the prayer from the council agenda. And 3, vary the prayer to a multi-faith prayer. Currently, we have a pledge. Although the agenda tonight, item 3 reads prayer pledge. This is testament that we have not formally deleted the prayer from the council agenda. My motion that I put forward tonight is a multi-faith prayer and have not suggested changing the pledge that has been agreed to, as I believe both are important. Although I think including the words seeking and respecting the opinions of others is critical to include for this council. We love to throw the percentages around to make it look like there aren't many religious Christian folk in our front and backyards. The last census stated that 50.8% of the council area population have no religion. It also stated in the city we have 22% who identify with a religion and name the religions, 9% that said that they were religious, however didn't want to say what religion, and alone that equates to 31%. So we know that they are religious of some sort. That is a decent percentage if you add the people who have ticked the box to say they don't associate with a religion. However, that does not mean they're not spiritual or religious or they don't pray. Add the workers. If you go to St Francis Cathedral at 8 o'clock, at midday, and sometimes at night, 5 days out of the week, not counting Sundays, you'll see a packed house of people who work in the city who are praying. And then you add the visitors to the city that are coming in from around Australia, then we have quite a few people who no doubt would support a multi-faith prayer, as Christianity is still the most common religion in Australia, with over 43.9% identifying with Christian beliefs. So my point is there is so many ways to look at this, and it's not just black and white. And we shouldn't just push the point of just applying a non-denominational pledge. The prayer and the pledge can live together, not just a heading for a council agenda item. Also, we can't just throw out tradition because of our own personal beliefs. The council is steeped in Christianity connotations, including our very own crest, and Queen Adelaide herself was deeply a Christian person. There is much evidence to support this. Even the welcome acknowledgement to country is spiritual and means, on many websites, deep spiritual connections to the land. And however, that is not under threat. As councillors, we have received many, many letters pleading with us not to remove the prayer. Hand on heart, I have only received 2 that support the removal or the muting of the prayer. Amongst these letters, 2 more minutes. Amongst these letters was one from Honourable Ben Hood, MLC, who states an excerpt: "Our Westminster system of government is founded upon traditions of the Christian faith, and to disregard these historical customs is a concerning retreat from the past practice. I acknowledge that sadly I have a snowdrop's chance in hell to protect the current prayer. However, I do believe it needs updating. And this is my common ground offering, which does somewhat go towards protecting traditions. Finally, I pray that my fellow councillors will see that what I'm proposing addresses the major issue that I'm hearing, that we need to be more inclusive of everyone, and I feel that although not ideal from my own personal perspective, I'm happy to put my personal beliefs to one side and put forward this compromise. Amen."
Can I just discover if anyone's seconding this motion? Councillor Davis. And could I just seek clarification? Is this to have a prayer and a pledge? Both a prayer and a pledge, so that they'll be read, both of them will be read. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd very much like to thank Councillor Noon for her motion tonight. I think that this has been something that's been in discussion for a long period of time in this council for the last number of months. I'm sure everyone's received a number of emails from their community, both for and against having a prayer. Now, look, me personally, I think that the City of Adelaide should aim to be an inclusive council, one that respects all people's beliefs, and even those people who are perhaps atheists and don't believe in something higher. So I think that the way in which that we can achieve that is by having a prayer that would speak to people like myself and Councillor Noon, so that we feel included within this chamber. And we also have a pledge, so perhaps would be more appropriate for Councillor Snape, so that we may all reflect in a manner appropriate to our beliefs at the beginning of each council meeting.
Apologies. You just, I don't know, put me in a box, declared my religion or lack thereof quite publicly.
Apologies. Look, my understanding was that Councillor Snape supported a pledge, and I understand that. I back that up. I'm fully supporting Councillor Snape in his desire to have a pledge in our council meetings. I think if that is what's most appropriate for you, then I fully acknowledge that and back you up on that. And I'd like, at the same time, you to back me up as well on what I feel is important to me and in terms of my beliefs. I think that it is really, really important to acknowledge in this place that we serve something far higher than ourselves, and recognise a history that's spanned since the beginning of Australia. It's a pledge or a prayer that occurs in our state and federal parliaments, and it is very much ingrained in our society, our customs and our cultural beliefs as the whole of Australia. I think that this is a great way forward. It's not necessarily a Christian pledge, it's not necessarily a Muslim pledge, but a prayer, but it is something that we can all resonate with if we do have a faith. And if you don't have a faith, all that asks you to do is respect that maybe some other people in the room do. The other thing is that it also protects future councillors as well who may have this view going forward. Now, it might be the case that Christianity is now a minority group and that they aren't in the minority. But just because somebody's in the minority and there is a smaller number of people, they also need to be looked after as well. And I don't think that we should just throw out the beliefs of a minority of people just because it suits us at the time. And I think we should respect all of our people's beliefs. I think the idea of having a pledge and a prayer is an excellent place to land on for this council. I think it's something we can be proud of, to be an inclusive council, to include all of our members of our community, and I think that this would be an excellent way to move forward for our city. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I give you the call.
Sorry. Okay, no problem. I just want to commend Councillor Noon for bringing this forward into council. It just makes it a lot more clearer in regards to the aspect that we had not agreed to remove the word prayer from our agenda. We didn't agree to remove the prayer at all. It got muddled amongst it all. So this just makes it going forward a lot more clearer in what we're including and what we're excluding. We are the city of churches, Lord Mayor, and I think we need to respect that, and we need to respect the fact that we have got multi-faiths of ratepayers within our city of Adelaide. We need to respect the fact that we are a council that are about diversity. We need to respect the fact that we are a council that are being inclusive. We need to respect the fact that we are welcoming to all cultures and religions in the city of Adelaide. We are a council that are not excluding anyone from this city, and that's what we are about. And this is what message that it's sending to our ratepayers out there and to the community, that we are, as a council, we are welcome to all, and we are welcome to all religions and all cultures of our city of Adelaide, because that's who we are, and we are a city of churches.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I offer a contrary view to the previous speakers. However, I do appreciate the opportunity that Councillor Noon has provided for Council to discuss this further. However, having remained mostly silent through this discussion, it does feel rather more like a sermon than a discussion or a debate, considering there has been a very limited number of speakers to date. I think in terms of what importance this seems to hold, certainly for the ratepayers and for the residents of Adelaide, is that this isn't substantive business. We've spent months going over this. We've spent God knows how many dollars of ratepayer money providing advice on a matter of procedure on a line in our agenda of who we acknowledge, and saying that this is what's really important to people. This is what people are paying for. And this is why people think that our council is an absolute shambles. And this is why they think we're all a bunch of crackpots, because we spend all of our time listening to sermons in council chambers talking about a matter of procedure at the opening of our meetings. And certainly I take the role of tradition in these places. We certainly wouldn't be continuing to hold them in places like this if tradition weren't important. But relying on the Westminster system as the hallmark of what's important, we don't have peerage in Australia. We don't have an upper house, certainly not in council, where people have lifetime memberships of a house of government where they get to make decisions for everyone, regardless of whether they deserve to be there or not. And that points to the fact that tradition has to move on. Even the UK acknowledged that and started to incrementally remove the amount of people that had an entitlement to peerage. They moved on from tradition that they held for nearly a millennium. A prayer at the beginning of a council meeting and forcing public servants and publicly elected officials to say hello to God at the beginning of a substantive meeting about real business feels to me like it's been a complete waste of our time over the last few months. So I do apologise if that has offended people about their views on the prayer, but that is my view on the prayer. Certainly a view that is held dearly by many people in the queer community who have been consistently subject to the weaponisation of prayer and religious practices by medicalising and criminalising homosexuality and various forms of gender and sexual diversity, where you may be sent off to camps. Your parents may send you off to a conversion practice training course, and you are forced to pray. You are forced to engage in religious practices, and then I have to come into this place as a queer person and am forced to pray or be forced to observe religious practices in the course of my duty as a publicly elected official. I think it is a representation that our society has held on to something that doesn't have a place here anymore and doesn't have any import or direction on the substantive business of council. So we have many discussions, Councillor Noon, and we always find a way to work through our disagreements. And like I said, I appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion, and I do appreciate that many members of council may not necessarily, just one more moment, Lord Mayor, and I'll wrap up, may not necessarily share my views, but I appreciate the opportunity to share it now, and I continue to, I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues on this council once we can finally move this past this discussion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I rise in support of this motion as a Muslim man. I note what the previous speakers have said, and I do agree with Councillor Elliott about this essentially being treated like the core business of council. A few months ago, when this issue was in the media and was in the public debate, I had a number of conversations with our ratepayers, and I asked the question because I wanted to see where their thoughts were on this. And their responses to me was essentially, is this going to reduce my council rates? I said, no. Is this going to bring more foot traffic to me? I said, I'm not sure, I don't think so. Is this going to get rid of my outdoor dining fee? I said, nope, that's not going to happen either. So I said, well, where is the benefit in this to me? And I think, and I do agree with that. So Councillor Elliott, you raise a very good point. But for me, as I said, as a Muslim man, or I guess as someone who identifies as Muslim, I still think that the prayer, given that it will be a pledge and a prayer, and it will be an inclusive prayer, I will support. I commend Councillor Noon on her perseverance on this.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to briefly share my views on this matter, which is that I won't be supporting the motion as it's presented, but wanted to explain why. I echo some of the statements just made here now about the division that's regularly reported around this council. What I see is this is 9.2 Part 14, for which the vast majority of motions, as we saw the hands firing up time and time again, we're actually largely on the same page. And yet this has been an item focused on that has suggested there is more division than I think there actually exists. My personal view is that I do believe that the pledge would provide an opportunity to recognise different creeds, beliefs and religions, but I also respect the view of other council members that that may not be the case in their view. I know that when I have spoken with friends and colleagues about this, they've said to me, in fact my godfather said to me, Mark, what is going on with the prayer? And then in that conversation with him and friends, we also got to the point of thinking actually, for their view, doesn't actually belong. So I've listened to people who have been residents here. I do want us to move on. I do believe the pledge would provide that opportunity. However, if we do in fact get to a point where this is voted, I look forward to continuing to work on all the important matters that exist in this council and working together with you all and moving on from this issue.
Lord Mayor, I just have a couple of questions. The motion doesn't say who is to read the prayer?
Councillors, if they wish. It says right there.
I understand that. I'm asking who is to begin the reading of the prayer. Lord Mayor, I'm sorry, I keep getting interrupted.
It's not clear, but it does imply that everyone recites it together.
So we pray together?
I think that's what it says.
I'm happy to read the wording for you.
No, we can read the wording. We don't need any more help. Thank you, Councillor.
If they wish.
So we don't have to read it, but we can all read it together if we wish to pray.
May I just say that my understanding is that councillors are invited to read this prayer pledge. And if I could just interpose my understanding of that, it means they will be invited, some will, some won't, but there might well be pressure on everyone to read together.
May I ask, Lord Mayor, would you be comfortable reading a prayer to the council meeting?
I'm sorry?
Would you be comfortable reading the prayer that's suggested to the meeting?
I don't want to read a prayer, and I don't think we should ever force a member of staff to read a prayer, because no employee should ever be forced to undertake a religious process that they don't feel comfortable with. But I think the word pray is of no meaning in this sentence, and the wording is bland. If I have to read it, I will read it.
Thank you.
But I don't think we should ask everyone to read things, because there will be extra pressure on them.
Lord Mayor, I have a question for Councillor Noon. So the prayer will read as is, as written, but I wonder, at the end of the prayer, will there be a religious part of the prayer? For example, will Councillor Davis say Amen, and Councillor Urban Sibentry will say allow, I will say Omitofo. What's the religious? What do we do with the religious component of it? Because if that's the case, it's actually diminished the purpose of being a multi-faith, prayer. I support a multi-purpose prayer, but I don't want to be the religious part brought in, because that's how this matter has risen to such prominence in the first place.
Through me, can I ask Councillor Noon to answer that?
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Lee. Look, we actually, and to Councillor Elliott's point as well about, it sounds like I'm forcing everyone to say, I pray to God. This is why we pray. It's in your heart who you pray to. Everyone's going to pray differently. And so it is up to you to actually, when you are saying that, if you wish to say it, what is in your heart and what you're thinking about at that point in time, and your own beliefs and your own whatever. So at the end of the day, I took out the word amen because, it's at the end of the pledge part. So I was happy to let that go. But for me, amen is like
I think we should just get an answer to the question, Councillor.
Well, no, I am answering his question.
Well,
an amend
otherwise
is
closing the debate.
An amend is sort of saying we agree. So this is why I put in the last sentence that actually said that we should be allowed to actually, speak it out loud if we wish. I have spoken to a few mayors recently, and they do allow that in their council, and I thought that was really quite a good idea, which is why I actually put that there.
Thank you. Councillor Lee, do you want to continue your speaking?
I think I'll support the multi-faith motion conditional on that the religious part is read in silence.
Thank you. I think we now moving on to Councillor Snape.
Before I do speak, I'd just like to touch on the previous point. Does the chair and the mover then recognise Councillor Lee's request that the religious component is read in silence? Because that's not what the motion reads. So right now, what you're suggesting is you couldn't support the motion as written.
I think we've still got meeting. Councillor, Councillor, can you stop speaking? I think we're moving out of standard meeting procedures. If we want to suspend meeting procedures, we can. I don't think we need to have a debate across the floor, though.
I'll speak to it. I am concerned that this is it is a regressive motion. It has taken us back. We've made such progress moving into the 21st century, and now, our ratepayers want us to be, getting on with the job. I completely echo the points of Councillor Elliott and Councillor Abraham-Zadeh with that. But I think they also expect us to keep a separation between church and state. I don't think that's a big ask. Many councils for many years now, almost 2 decades, in the case of Campbelltown, have moved to a point of having a non-denominational pledge or whatever you call it. And now we're 2023 we're now reverting or looking to revert back to a religious opening. It does worry me, and I share the concerns that Councillor Lee's just made, which haven't been addressed, which is that the prayer being read out loud, and you've made that concern yourself, Lord Mayor, and that hasn't been addressed. There's been no amendment made to that, so I don't want to presume or anything, but from what Councillor Lee just said, he can't support the motion as written because that's not the changes that are in front of us. So, look, I obviously will not be supporting this particular motion. I fully I thank and respect Councillor Noon for putting it forward. I understand why, and we agree on so many other things that I acknowledge this is something we are going to disagree in, and I know we'll work together quite well on many other issues in going forward, no matter what the result of this is tonight. But I do urge my fellow councillors to vote against this and just stay the course. I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Ho.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Well, since everyone has been on my share some of my thoughts as well. Look, I have never ever put up my hand to run for council to discuss this matter. I would rather talk about the right, how we manage our roads, how we actually do rubbish collections, and how we actually manage ADA or the other things, all right? But to be honest, Lord Mayor, since this first happened, and I feel embarrassing that when you have that kind of not dispute or argument with Councillor Davis, I think, well, it should not happen in this council. So I really like to thank Councillor Noon to bring this forward. Therefore, all members can look at something, depends on however they feel comfortable with or whatever they believe. At least we have something we could make the decision on, so that from this moment, from tonight onward, we have something to follow. All right. So I thank you, Councillor Noon, for bringing this motion forward. I didn't have a position before, but yeah, after listening to the debate, I would like to support the motion. Thank you.
So, and I think that we'll close the debate now, Councillor Noon, and I'll be taking it in parts.
Can I just sum up? I just want to say that, I didn't start this conversation, actually. I remember way back when I first started, some of the people that have opposed this and opposed a prayer, it was Councillor Kouros and myself in that conversation. I don't know if Councillor Kouros remembers, but we warned these people about actually bringing this up and that it would divide the community, and to just let it go and respect the traditions. And here we find ourselves in this situation. And this is, to me, we're being forced to actually, I absolutely agree with Councillor Elliott and others that have said that this is not our core business, but this was here before we started. This was here before I actually sat here. And it was here for many years before that. So at the end of the day, for us to just dismiss a prayer is just disrespectful, but to update it is respectful. To us to actually turn it into a multi-faith prayer is very, very wise. And for us to actually come together and be able to actually say it or not say it is wise as well. So I hope that we do actually, that this does get up tonight.
So we'll take it in parts so that those who don't wish to have everyone read out the prayer aloud can vote against that as well. So the first part that council note, those in favour? Well, it's... I'm sorry? Well, there are various elements of it. It's not...
What does the first part do that the others don't?
Well, there's a new idea introduced at the end. So we'll take it in parts so that the first paragraphs, which are the substantive parts, all those in favour? All those against? Division has been called.
Members, a division has been called. Please stand in favour of Councillor Noon's motion in relation to Part 1 until your name has been called. Councillor Noon, Councillor Ho, Councillor Kouros, Councillor Lee, Councillor Davis and Councillor Abrahimzadeh. Thank you.
And the second part, which is about the out loud reading, all those in favour? All those against? That's tied, and I'll be voting against. Thank you. So that's lost. Thank you, members. We'll move back to the substantive motion. Now, could I ask if a member of council will now move to page 17 in the agenda and look at item 14? Clearly, part 2 of that motion is now ultra vires, and we won't be accepting that element. But part 1, 3 and 4 are possible motions that could be moved to tidy up this whole issue. So can I ask if anyone is prepared to move items 1, 3 and 4? Councillor Davis?
I'd like to move it, but I'd also like to remove 3.3. Thank you. Which is the removal of your title,
So you're
your worship.
moving parts 1, 3 and 4, with the exception that 3.3 is removed as well. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, could you say it again?
That's right.
I'm sorry, I'm just getting some complicated advice that I'm slightly confused by.
No, that's right. That's right.
And part 4 as well. So you're moving it with that part removed.
Yeah,
Do you have a seconder, or do we have any? You lapse through want of a seconder. You'll second him. Can I just ask if there is an amendment to put back in your worship?
That's probably a good way of doing it. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I wouldn't have any complaint about an amendment to that effect.
So would somebody be prepared to move back through the 3.3?
No. Do I get to speak? Do I get to speak to it?
I'm just seeing if there's an amendment. If not, you can speak to your motion.
No. I think I moved the motion. It's been
You're
moved and
speaking to
seconded.
your motion.
I speak to my motion.
You're speaking to your own motion.
After, which is my motion, and then you call for an amendment.
I asked if anybody wanted to put an amendment, and they haven't.
Okay. All right. Happy to speak to it now.
So you're going to speak to the amendment that wasn't put up, or the motion that you did put up? Sorry, I'm confused.
I have no idea what
now.
you're talking about. I'm moving the motion without 3.3.
So you're moving part 1. Have we got it renumbered? Part 1.
Yeah.
Can we just renumber it?
And deletion of 2 as well. Deletion of 2.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and the deletion of 2, of course. Yeah.
Which other?
So I'm moving items 1, 3, and 4, but I'm not moving 3.3.
Okay. That's what I thought you were doing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it's seconded by Councillor Kouros, I understand?
Yeah.
And are you going to speak to it?
Yes, if you'd like me to. Happy to.
Well.
Yes, thank you. I think, look, it's been a bit strange how this came to the chamber, and I don't really think that we've had the opportunity to think about these types of traditions that are ingrained within our council. And I fully acknowledge that the Lord Mayor doesn't actually like being called Your Worship, and I get that. And I think that if she doesn't like being called that title, that we shouldn't call her that. And I'm fully on board with that, and I'll refrain from addressing you as Your Worship. I do think, though, the way that this came about, my understanding is we had a workshop, had a recommendation from the administration, we passed the motion and we adopted our new standing orders. Then we had another workshop where this was another recommendation that came in with some further changes, and now it's come back to council. I don't remember actually having a debate or having the discussion about removal of the worship, and I may have missed a workshop here and there, but thank you for the interjection, Lord Mayor. I'm sure you'll eject yourself from the chamber. The thing is that when we actually start to move and erode some of our histories and customs that we've adopted over some 200 years since we've been here, I think there is something lost to the character and nature of it. And I note when we walked out here, we bring this silver mace with some red felt on it, and the CEO announces that the Lord Mayor is in the chair, and there's a lot of pomp and ceremony to that. And part of that gives to our culture and the traditions that we've developed over time. Now, the issue that I have with the removal of your worship is it's simply a title that a lot of people address a position in a position of authority that you are... you are worthwhile, and you're a worthwhile individual, and that's what that title means. It doesn't mean that we're worshipping you in any means. And that didn't actually come through in any of the reports. It didn't come through about the history. It didn't explain to us over the last 200 years what is the significance of that title. Where does it originate from? And I do have issue with removing these types of traditions without that type of background. So what I'm asking for is that, I'm personally very happy if you don't want to be called your worship. I completely understand why it might even have a religious connotation to it, which it doesn't in history. But I do think that we should keep it in the standing orders. I do think we should keep it as a tradition of the City of Adelaide, and I don't think that we should so readily depart from what makes us us, even if it's just little things like bringing out the mace at the start of the meeting, the CEO announcing the Lord Mayor's in the chair, and we all walk in and those types of we stand to accept the Lord Mayor. I think those things are really important to the fabric of our society. I understand that there might be an amendment to continue to remove your worship, but look, I'd really ask that you just consider it and just leave it in for history's sake. It really benefits nobody to remove it. I don't think it really hurts your sensibilities, Lord Mayor. And I don't think you'd be that offended, really, if it stays in. So, look, I seek your support for the motion, everything else as it goes through. Thank you.
If I could just explain something from the chair with your leave. I've probably had a longer history with this council than anyone in the room, and nobody has ever called the Lord Mayor your worship. It's an anomaly of the old Local Government Act that actually listed your worship as a possibility. A Lord Mayor has been in place for a capital city in this town since, I think, 1919, at which point the title has always been Lord Mayor. I have no knowledge of what happened before 1919, but I can assure you your worship has never been used since 1919 because all the documents refer to the Lord Mayor. I think the CEO and I have been in this chamber for longer than anyone, actually longer than anyone. I feel like history embodied. And there has never been the term, your worship. So if we want to stick with tradition, we stick with the title Lord Mayor, which is an honorific related to the position as a capital city mayor. It's nothing to do with me. I am irrelevant. I'm just occupying the seat. And this isn't about my sensibilities. This is about wanting to retain the way this organisation has operated in terms of titles.
I have a question, Lord Mayor. Then thank you for that. History is really important, and I think traditions are really important. So where did your worship? Can you clarify if it's always been Lord Mayor? Why is your worship?
If I can explain, the problem that we had with our old meeting procedures were they were lifted holus bolus from the Local Government Act, which just has that term. And one of the challenges has been to return it to a site-specific document and separate it into a single element that just refers to meeting procedures. And so that has occurred now, and as you know, the generally large document has been cut up into smaller parts and rationalised, and that's what this whole process has been about. I can assure you, though, that the terminology is as I've explained.
Lord Mayor, I'm just confused. Is this a fresh motion or an amendment?
No, this is a fresh motion.
And therefore...
This motion hasn't been put up before, so there is the capacity to amend.
Okay. Look, Lord Mayor, I wonder if we could take it in parts, because if, as Councillor Davis suggests, we endorse everything, we also endorse doing away with this. If, however, we take it in parts, then those of us who do not wish to vote as we're being asked to can do so.
So I think we need to move it on because it's becoming a time-consuming exercise. Unless anyone has anything concrete to I'm sorry? 3.3 is out because it's ultra vires. It is ultra vires. You cannot vote on it without a rescission motion, which must be put on notice. So the only thing that I'm prepared to accept is an amendment that would return your worship, remove the title your worship.
Lord Mayor, can I make that amendment? I'll just seek a seconder.
Didn't he speak?
Can we move that amendment now? Unless you want to speak to it. Those in favour? Against? That's carried. That now becomes part of the motion. So the motion, which is 1, 3 and 4, as it was printed in the council agenda. All those in favour?
I'll make the sum up.
All those against? I think I'll sum up. That's carried. Thank you.
Why don't I get to sum up?
No.
You can see why I call you a tyrant. Like, where's the meeting procedure?
9.3. We're moving on.
I would formally like to call you a tyrant for not formally say that the way that you play hard and fast and loose with the rules is completely outrageous. Like, you didn't even give me the opportunity to.
So
to
is
sum
your
up.
behaviour, please.
Hardly, because I'm following the rules.
Councillor Kouros, would you like to move 9.3 from your committee? Moved by Councillor Kouros, seconded by Councillor Ho. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, members. We will now move to 9.4, which is noting. Could I ask Councillor Noon, as the chair of the City Planning, Development and Business Affairs Committee, if she would just move noting of the consultation. Moved by Councillor Noon, seconded by Councillor Kouros. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you, members. I just give a brief report about my activities. The Caterpillar Annual Community Parklands Forums have been underway, and I've attended 2 sessions, one at the Central Market and one in Mary Lee Park. I've also met a series of Park Terrace Community Garden volunteers, and I recommend a visit to the community garden if you should be in that side of the parklands. I've also toured Benithan Park with Minister Champion and members of the Parklands Authority to discuss the siting of the new Women's and Children's Hospital. And I was part of an event unveiling the place of reflection in Rymel Park. I rolled the first ball at Adelaide Bowling Club without embarrassing myself unduly, and I laid a wreath at the Battle of Britain commemorative service in Torrens Parade Ground on behalf of the Council. I attended a major fundraising event with George Danikian and a range of community members organised by Pinnacle College to raise funds for earthquake survivors in Turkey. And I've attended a range of events which are too numerous perhaps to mention. The most significant matters that I would like to raise are the deaths of 2 very significant former council members. I don't believe any of you served with either Con Bambakis or Henry Ninio. Con Bambakis was a very significant member of the community. He, I believe, owned a cafe in the Central Market. One of his relatives, also called Con Bambakis, owned a shop in Sturt Street, but it was a different Connie Bambakis. For those of you who might have met him, he was a very distinguished-looking man with a very fine physique. He was a wrestler, and I think had been in the Olympic and Commonwealth Games. He was a stellar contributor. He served as an elected member continuously from 77 to 93 and was Deputy Lord Mayor under Lord Mayor Steve Condis. The other death which we should note and mourn is that of former Lord Mayor Henry Ninio, who died just last week. He was Lord Mayor from 93 to 97, but had been councillor and alderman between 83 and 93. He was a very significant figure in the life of our city. He was born in Egypt and migrated to Australia. He set up a perfume company and owned Burke's Chemist. He was a great collector of perfume bottles and other memorabilia, and we should note both of their passing. They were significant contributors to the city. Someone move receipt of my... Thank you. Moved by Councillor Siebentritt, seconded by Councillor Snape. All those in favour? That's carried. I'm sorry, Councillor?
To that, are we doing anything as a council to signify his service?
I haven't got a date for a funeral for Councillor Ninio. Former Lord Mayor Ninio. I did give a message to Con Bambakis' funeral and the notice of his funeral, but I'm very happy to take up any members' wishes. But I think Con Bambakis was a man that you possibly knew as a child.
Henry Ninio, so
yes,
former Lord Mayor.
So
it would
on
be
your
great
behalf,
if we
I would send flowers and a note to his wife.
But as a council, I thought
yes,
if we're going to have
of course. So thank you. I'll move on to the next item, which is 12.1. Councillor Elliott, did you wish to give a note about your activities?
I did, Lord Mayor. Thank you for spotting my hand and nod. I don't normally like to give a councillor report. I like to let my actions speak for themselves out in the community. But this is one I'm particularly proud of to share with council because for 2 years now I've been part of a grassroots community organisation that has pulled together a very large event called Critical Mass, which this year pulled together more than 2,000 cyclists, families and children with all manner of bikes, and gathered in the parklands this weekend to ride through the streets of the city of Adelaide, calling for safe routes to school, lower residential speed limits and e-bike subsidies. But as part of that, because it is a growing movement and is a collective action, I'd really like to pay thanks to my colleagues, Councillor Snape and Councillor Noon, for attending, and I sincerely appreciate the expressions of interest and support from Councillor Kouros, Councillor Siebentritt and Councillor Abrahimzadeh. I know they made their best efforts to attend, and I really appreciate the effort they put towards supporting the movement as well. So I know that there are conflicting views about the different types of cycling in our city, but I know that they have the community's best interests at heart. So thank you very much to everyone who offered their support.
Before I speak proper, I just want to make an edit to the information in front of us. I must have slipped my eyes when it went through. Just the City South Association AGM, we have Councillor Philip Martin, Councillor Carmel Noon and Councillor Mary Kouros. I actually think it was Councillor Philip Martin, Councillor Mark Siebentritt and myself. So just as an edit for the minutes. Not to throw anyone out on the bus, it's just wrong names.
How we take amendments to this? Is there an inaccuracy? Councillor Kouros, were you there? We'll thank you. We will just check the diaries.
It's just a record keeping. It's not. It's just a record keeping.
Thank you. The amendment's noted.
Thank you. I attended 2 events in the last fortnight on your behalf, Lord Mayor. One which Councillor Elliott has kindly spoke to already, and I feel very warm and excited to go along, and I appreciate his. I know Carmel got one as well, a little certificate of what was it? Appreciation or attendance, but thank you very much. It will sit in place in my office, so thank you. And I just want to reiterate what he said about such a great turnout, and it's a really positive movement, and I commend everything, Councillor Elliott, that you've done to work for that, for the wider movement, but also for the day itself, which I think went off without a hitch. So didn't get on my bike, but I was there anyway. I also attended the Ronald McDonald House Charities SA Gala Ball on your behalf, Lord Mayor. Where my mum and I sat next to, she was very excited actually, sat next to Rear Admiral, former Governor Rear Admiral Kevin Scarce. And it was a very, very fun evening, very fulfilling evening. The room raised lots of money for a very worthwhile cause. And I've been invited to attend on-site Ronald McDonald House on Melbourne Street to see the fantastic work that they do. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. Can I ask someone move the recommendations as printed? Moved by Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Abrahimzadeh. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, members. Could we move on then to the Deputy Lord Mayor's motion on notice, the bow figurehead?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Do you wish me to seek a seconder?
A seconder, Councillor Snape.
Thank you. Lord Mayor, the return of the Clipper City of Adelaide to Adelaide has been an extraordinary undertaking by a group of volunteers, which has been supported by the Government of South Australia, by local government areas, including the City of Adelaide, and of course the people of South Australia. I'm sure every member of this chamber knows the history of the Clipper Adelaide. It was, in fact, in service for many years until I think about 1920, beginning from May 1864, when it carried on 23 return voyages, migrants from a number of countries as well as goods, before it was commandeered for the British Navy, and it became HMS, golly, I've forgotten the name. Someone can help me, can they? Anyway, it was taken over by the British Navy, and ultimately, because of the efforts of the charitable group, was purchased and transported to Adelaide. In fact, today is the 10th anniversary of the day that the Clipper ship began its return journey to Adelaide via England and Europe. The history of our association with this ship, as distinct from the Association of the City of Adelaide, is spelled out by the administration in the papers for tonight. We have given $50,000 some years ago to assist with the transport of the vessel to Adelaide, and then $30,000 some years ago also for the creation of a coat of arms to be fitted to the stern of the ship, and a copy of that coat of arms now rests here in the City of Adelaide, somewhere in our storage. I haven't seen it on display for some time, I might add, Lord Mayor. I'm sure it's somewhere. Now work has begun on the bow of the Clipper Adelaide, on the bowsprit, and it's hoped that the council will contribute to, as it did before, the cost of allowing the coat of arms to be affixed to the bow with the sculpture that's described by the illustration in the accompanying agenda. Lord Mayor, look, it is an extremely worthwhile cause, one that will be observed for decades to come as the ship is being moved out of the water in the near future into permanent display on Dock 2 at Port Adelaide. The committee for the Clipper ship asks that the city considers donating a sum of $30,000 or up to $30,000 to assist with the creation of the bow coat of arms and sculpture. And I note, and I hope members do also, that the proposal is that it comes from the next financial year, not from this current financial year, so it would be part of the budget bid process.
Can I just clarify then, we're not predicting an allocation, we're endorsing an examination, is that what it is? Can I just...
What the intention is that the city allocates up to $30,000 in the 24-25 financial year to assist in the commissioning of the figurehead carvings and the coat of arms for the City of Adelaide as part of the budget process in 24-25. It may not cost $30,000, by the way, Lord Mayor, but that was the estimate that was handed to me.
And can I just ask another question? I'm, as I say, new to the current budgeting process. Will that come out of a scheme or a grants program for arts? Is it, or will this be new money?
Thank you. Through the chair, it will be allocated as a strategic project as part of council's deliberation. So it would be new money as such, but would be considered as part of council's overall budget.
Seconded?
just very briefly, and just to commend the Deputy Lord Mayor on his motion, and just to say we spoke, many people spoke earlier about traditions and wanting to keep traditions and our history, historical records, and I think this fits right into that. And I commend his push as well to have it in the next financial year, which is more financially responsible. And yeah, I think it's a good idea all around.
Just so I get that right, it will be displayed at the City of Port Adelaide, is that right? Or at the Port Adelaide? On the ship. So not in the City of Adelaide anywhere. It's not many docks here, no. Look, I love history, Lord Mayor, and I think it's a very important part of us connecting to our past, and I always would advocate for it, but in this instance, looking at the administration comment, we've already given a substantial sums of money in the past, and I do feel for them and wanting more to retain this. But for me, it sends a really bad message to our businesses who are struggling at the moment. And if I agree to a motion like this, putting in our budget to endorse an allocation of $30,000, which could be less or it could be more, and to have discussions in regards to allocating money in this budget, I don't think it will go down very well. I've been receiving a lot of emails the past couple of weeks in regards to the fees that they've been getting regarding outdoor dining and how much this is burdening the costs on them in running their business. And I feel that this is a very clear message if endorsing this would send a really bad message to our businesses that we are endorsing items that are not going to benefit them within our budget. We've already said that we've got constraints within our budgets. We've already said that we are working towards recovering from our budget. We've already put this all forward to our community, and then to turn around and say, oh yeah, but we're going to put $30,000 to restore an item that we already put money into in the past is clearly not sending the right message to our ratepayers. And at this vulnerable time that they're in, the cost of living going up, the cost of running a business is going up, it's just a burden, and I don't want to be part of sending the wrong message to our ratepayers.
I'm hoping that the mover and seconder might accept a variation. The biggest issue with this is, well, first of all, I have very little detail, and a year away is a long time for me to get that detail, and so I don't necessarily want to undermine the motion, but I would prefer that it said that the allocation of $30,000 in the draft 24-25 financial budget, because this still needs to go out to our community and next year's financial budget, and actually have feedback from our community. We need to look in the context of all of that. So my understanding of what this does is this locks it away forever. There's no recourse. You'd actually have to run a rescission motion then if our budget wasn't looking good, or if we did want to invest further in our local ratepayers and residents. So my preference would be, if the mover and seconder would accept a variation, to simply put the word draft in front of the word 24-25 financial year. Would that be acceptable?
Just a moment. The mover and seconder.
Well, Lord Mayor, the intention of moving this at this time is to enable the committee for the clipper ship Adelaide to plan for the carving of the bowsprit in the coming financial year. Were this not to be endorsed by Council to go forward in the 24-25 budget, there would be some uncertainty, and that may in fact lead them to have to consider some alternative arrangements. So no, I wouldn't be prepared to accept that.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor, for moving this. I wish to echo the comments of Councillor Davis, and I actually had some wording prepared. I know you may be shocked. So considering that the mover is not amenable to an amendment, I'd like to move an alternate motion which would effectively retain the wording of all the motion aside from the deletion of endorse allocation. and would replace it with refers consideration of an allocation of $30,000 to the 2024-25 financial year budget deliberations. I may need some assistance from administration to tidy up that wording. But thank you, Lord Mayor. And I'll speak very briefly. My proposal for this alternate motion kind of draws in a few of the comments of previous speakers. I think that history is an incredibly important part of what's going on here, and I guess part of the burden of history is that it does require maintenance, and we do have that obligation to contribute to this. However, I am uncomfortable about making financial decisions and allocations outside of a budget process. I do think it should go through that formal budget deliberation process, and unfortunately, I feel that the responsibility of council is not to provide assurances to external organisations about their financial operating position. We are foremost responsible to our ratepayers and the financial operating position of council first. So I wish to support the allocation when it comes up for deliberation at the budget time, but I do not feel that now is the appropriate time to make an endorsement for allocation, hence the alternate wording of my motion.
So, Councillor Siebentritt, are you speaking against the motion? Oh, no, I accepted Councillor Davis. I think you've said enough, Councillor Davis. Shall we put it to the vote? Have you anything to contribute? Be brief.
I will, thank you. And I also do think that we do like the detail on what it would mean for our city and our ratepayers and what they would get out of it. And I would very much like to see the submission come from them, so who they're referring. So we actually have the request in writing from this group. We all have pet projects, and I'm passionate about a lot of different things, and I think the most appropriate way is for that organisation to come to council with a request. That could be obviously sponsored by council, I have no problem with that, but actually having that request come from them in a formal letter, setting out exactly what they want, how they're going to spend the money and how it comes under our policies, I think is the most appropriate way of doing it. So I think this gives us time to do it.
Clarification. Look, the councillor hasn't read the papers tonight. He insists on the matter coming to the administration. The administration makes clear in the papers that it received a request in July. Now, I'm facilitating that request. There it is. It's in the papers. Please read it. You do us a disrespect by not reading your papers. The matter came to the administration in July. I have been asked by that committee, by one of the directors, Tom Chapman, who is the husband of the former Lord Mayor, if I would bring this matter forward in order to enable the committee to plan the work. If it cannot plan the work, it cannot start considering the alteration that's required until July next year. If it knows that it has the assistance of the City of Adelaide for the City of Adelaide's coat of arms to be displayed on the vessel, that will be seen by tens of thousands of people every year, and indeed will also be seen in the web page on the City of Adelaide, which speaks to the history of the City of Adelaide Clipper, which clearly people have not looked at, they would understand the significance and the connection to the city. By all means, put an amendment forward. I'll vote against it because it is an important matter that is required to be decided this month at the latest. If you do not wish to support the Clipper Ship City of Adelaide, then vote for this.
So I will take that as a personal explanation because you did speak already. So that's a personal explanation, Deputy Lord Mayor. So I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? All those against? That's lost. That now becomes reverting to the motion, the original motion. Unless there's any further to be said, I'll put the motion as printed. All those in favour? All those against? That's lost. Division has been called. So all those in favour of the motion on notice? Sorry. Yes, please.
All those in favour of the Deputy Lord's motion, please stand until your name has been called. Councillor Noon, Councillor Lee, Councillor Snape and Deputy Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. That's lost. I'll move on to the next item. Members, do we have any motions without notice? If not, any questions on notice? Any questions without notice? No. Could I move?
I have a question without notice.
I'm sorry?
I have a question without notice.
Yes, please. Please go.
In the vein of Sunday's critical mass event, it's my understanding that in the dying terms of previous Councillor Kouros put forward a motion in regards to 30 km/h speed limits, just an investigation for a report. And earlier in this term, I put forward asked for a report on school safety. I was just wondering for a timeline on those two reports, when they will come before us. Thank you.
Let's see.
Thank you through the Chair. The administration comments to both of those referred to the transport strategy. They will be considered as part of that piece of work, as part of the integrated transport strategy.